Alrighty, this is the harsh reality for non-developers, software engineers in the AI space. That kind of goes for vibe coders, um, anyone that really messes around with any of the Make or N8N or OpenAI's new agent builder. So this is going to be kind of covering my uh, journey of failure and insight and the little bit of success that I've had. Just some background. I do graphic design. I work in pre-press flexographic printing. So I primarily just camp in Illustrator and pretty much it. Um, I've always been technically inclined, so pretty much anything tech-wise has always interested me, and that's kind of how I got into stuff. I started out in Visual Studio, um, and realized that you can code in the little AI side panel there through Rue code and their built-in AI uh, chat they had at the time. I mean, they still do, but in March. And then Firebase Studio and Bolt and Lovable were gaining ground during that time. And uh, I messed with Firebase Studio for a little bit. Didn't really like it. Didn't like Bolt. Didn't like Lovable. Felt like there wasn't really much control that I had over it all. And so I kind of just went back to Visual Studio. And that was during the um, Google API key rotation era, along with OpenRouter, when you could just make new Gmail accounts and just sign up, and you'd get, uh, free tokens essentially. So March and April, I pretty much spent most of my time uh, vibe coding SAS and AS, which is just AI integrated services. And during May, that's kind of when I started to integrate it into my workplace. Um, and there wasn't really much that kind of went on during this time. It was just more over trial and failure, learning how to prompt engineer and context engineer and so on and so forth. I didn't really um, understand much software wise. I had very little amounts of knowledge. I knew of things, but if I were to start a Next.js project on my own, I couldn't do it, right? Um, May to July, that's kind of when I started getting a more of a, kind of like the holy shit moment. This is crazy. And started to do websites, started to create my own iOS app, and started more of work integrations. Not necessarily integrating AI into work, but utilizing AI to develop um, scripts and so on and so forth to um, kind of remove the monotony that goes along in the office. Um, so websites, I kind of been doing that practically since May um, to just have some side income, just to kind of uh, essentially just for side income and to kind of, I guess, practice with AI and prompting and uh, AI engineering as a whole. The iOS app was something that kind of sparked from my wife, and she's doing a lot of research on supplements and stuff, and figured, what if we make like a supplement regimen app, and that kind of tumbled into a kind of like a holistic naturopathic AI. Um, I don't want to say the word companion, but AI chat that was holistically and uh, kind of tuned for naturopathy. Um, that went on for the 3 months, and it started out as a SaaS website, and kind of read into some stuff, just kind of set up and everything. It just seemed too complicated, so I started doing an iOS app, and that was before. Obviously, Xcode now has it integrated, but that was back when you would just open up the project in VS or Cursor, and um, you'd have Xcode and Cursor side by side, and you just kind of uh, develop and build, compile, and fix the errors and stuff, copy paste. Started kind of gaining some more ground into the work integration. I was building a automated shipping system. Kind of sounds redundant because I feel like a lot of businesses, especially big businesses, a lot of their shipping is automated. Um, but for businesses that only print out a few packages a day, or under 20 a day, more than likely your systems aren't fully automated from the moment a order comes in to a label coming out of the printer. So I was kind of working on autonomizing the employee workflow in regards to kind of preparing invoice um, data, or preparing invoice sheets, and then processing the label and then shipping the package. Um, and from July to now, it's kind of been I wouldn't say a wild ride, but a very interesting ride, because from this point to this point, it's I've grown a lot in regards to engineering with AI, also understanding software engineering and development, and um, kind of just the whole programming space as a whole. I've learned a lot. I understand more, um, and it's kind of just now just kind of more exploring random avenues, building tools for myself to help me with vibe coding or whatever. Um, and it's a lot harder than it is made out to be. And I'm not specifically talking like Lovable and Bolt. I'm talking, I'm developing using Cloud Code. I'm not using API. I'm using the Max plan, but sitting in a CLI all day can kind of wear you down, and it can you kind of, I wouldn't say start rethinking things, but your mindset kind of goes from idea guy to, you kind of have to, you do have to use critical thinking, and that's the one thing that a lot of people were kind of saying in the beginning and kind of during this whole AI rush, is that you need to use critical thinking. You can't just prompt AI for everything, and that's completely true. And I think a lot of people, especially that are idea people and that don't understand technology and whatnot, um, they spit everything into AI and then hope a return that's gonna come out nice. And I would say 0.5% of the time it will come out nice and functional and viable, but other times it does not. So that kind of goes down to some of the things that I've realized through failure. Um, Vibe development, creating and shipping and marketing, it's free and it's kind of easy. But getting someone to transact um, a payment, like buy your service or buy your product, that's fucking hard. Um, it's really hard to market yourself, and it's really hard to market yourself without money as well. So you kind of have to be in the right place, right time, with the right product. Obviously, marketing is a concoction of variables. This is kind of a hot take, but this is something that I've realized. I don't. I used to do it, and then I stopped because I feel like it just doesn't do anything for me. But PRDs are dumb as fuck. It's a a way to, I don't even know. It's dopamine for the brain, showing that you have a an outline for the idea that you have, and I feel like that's stupid as fuck. Like it's especially since it's not. I mean, you don't even know if it's fully thought through, especially if you're vibe coding. You know what I mean? You can give it all the context you want. You can say, I want this and I want that and I want it to be like this and it needs to be like that because of this. And these are the people I'm marketing to and these are the pain points and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, the PRD is disregarded probably about 20% of the way through when it comes to vibe coding or engineering AI to any degree. Um, Context and interpreting and articulating the code and then the input that you're giving AI and the output that it's returning you, that I've realized is very crucial, and I feel like that's more crucial than honestly the PRDs, the MCPs, the coding agent that you're using, so on and so forth. I've learned that you kind of just have to understand and learn, the developmental like fundamentals to even understand anything. Um, and software engineers and anyone that is in this coding space, with or without AI, their blogs, their portfolios, any sort of studies, those are awesome to read. And I think in today's day and age, we're so what's the word? Our attention span is so low that it's really hard to read now, especially with information being able to be spit at you. And I think that's primarily due to social media and just those platform of apps. But I think also now with Claude Code and even Codex or even just any other like ChatGPT or any of the AI chats that research this or return a summary or do a deep research on this, whatever it is. Like it doesn't even have to be business oriented. It could just be like, what's the simple question of like, what's the meaning to life, or like, what are your thoughts on religion or whatever it might be, and it can return thousands of words to you in seconds, minutes. So to me, it's just like it's context overload for your brain, not necessarily just the AI. And so like when you're getting all this information, like literally whenever you want, in the amount of characters that you want, it can be overwhelming. I'm sure, if you're in the AI space, you've probably realized that YouTube is shit for even looking up anything of importance. It's just a bunch of recycled garbage, the same people making the same N8N flows and how to sell a voice AI caller to someone for $10,000 and how they made 400K in 3 months doing it. And, I'm sure that is real, to some degree. But I also think that there's some sense of, the logistics and also like how realistic is it for you to go onto NAN and then, you know, set up some webhooks and some fucking VAPI voice agents and, hook it up to a front end, chat integration on someone's website. It's pretty easy to do that, but getting the client to sign that and like convincing them that they need that over their, you know, clerk or their front desk person or the receptionist, whatever it is, I feel like that's kind of like the magic, right? And that kind of goes back to the whole marketing thing, right? Um, so another thing is I might have a cool idea or like a solution idea or some sort of idea, right? But I've wasted hours and days, due to not doing any sort of research or due diligence before even creating the tool or app or website or whatever it is, due to costs and the legalities and compliances. And that kind of goes back to my iOS app. I probably spent 2 3 months on it, literally just designing the front end. I'm in the creative space, so that was a huge like revolving circle for me, just making it perfect. And um, the compliances and the legalities and the upfront costs to cover the legalities and the compliances for health related apps are crazy. Following HIPAA is just like anything HIPAA. You gotta have money to do it. And so, unfortunately, I moved away from it because I don't have the money to do it. And so it's just kind of learning to do your due diligence and to actually, maybe, oh, I want a tool that, you know, let's see, like, oh, okay, for instance, I was making an AI wrapper, just something local, nothing public, just to essentially uh, set it up for scraping. So whenever the scraper would go through the URL, it wouldn't go through like every other like link. It would just only do that specific URL. So I had to make like exclude URLs through regex, right? And so I spent time designing a front end for it, and then the back end. Didn't really like the front end. It was weird. It was just like I didn't like it. And then yeah, at this point it's like 2 hours, and I'm just like, okay, like what the fuck am I doing? And so I just go on ChatGPT, and then I just create a GPT that literally does that. I just like it's my own GPT. I can just it only returns regex exclude URLs. And so I give it a URL and it returns one click copy paste. I don't have to, design a front end. I don't have to deploy it to Vercel or do any of that. And so it's just kind of like, doing, looking elsewhere to see if there's something there and if you can build on top of it or just use it. It doesn't matter if, someone else built it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're going to get any more cookies for fucking building your own AI regex exclude wrapper, right? So it was something that I kind of had to, realize/learn, right? Um, is some things that I've been learning and some of the things that I've accomplished. So semantics and jargon, that's huge. Like learning, not programming languages like JS and CSS and all that type of stuff, but like actually learning how to describe and like kind of direct and engineer AI to handle something. Um, Also learning when to take a break. I've noticed, especially, and I'll go into it here in a bit, but with my work integrations, I would be sitting on something for hours. Hours. I remember one time it took me, I was on, I had a mockup generator that creates mockups like so. And what it does is it essentially just takes the uploaded artwork and it uh, analyzes the uploaded art and extracts the like main subject and the key details, so it doesn't like if you uploaded artwork that had other elements in it, or if you just uploaded art that was like your billboard sign but there's trees in the way and stuff, it would just like exclude everything and really focus on the main logo or the branding and whatnot. That was on Firebase. Firebase was a pain in the ass to just fucking like set up and uh, you know just handle all in all. And it was constantly updating and it would constantly break stuff. And so I was like, I'm gonna move it to Vercel. I moved it to Vercel, and it took me 13 hours to vibe code it to run on Vercel because of how everything was built. It was built in a completely different language. It used different functions, different blobs, all that type of bullshit. And it was like, I think in the 13 hours, within the last like hour and a half, I think I took a break, and it wasn't even like a substantial amount of time. It was just like a breather, and I came back and I like took my time prompting and like, semantically writing out everything that needs to, work and function and how it needs to work and function and what the purpose is and all that type of stuff. And it nearly one-shotted all of the issues that I was having. And it was such a like moment of relief, but also like anger too, because I'm like, like, why the fuck isn't this working? You know what I mean? Um, and this kind of I already kind of touched earlier, but and the other thing is just kind of managing the idea guy stuff in my head. Like a lot of these cool things. Like it'd be cool to have all these tools, but it's like, is it like viable to have 85 tools that do 85 different things? You know what I mean? Like that's why we have ChatGPT. That's why we have Claude. That's why we have Gemini. So we can have one tool that does everything, and then we can set the system prompt and so on and so forth. Um, and one thing that I have this kind of goes back to the learning phase, and also, or not the phase, but the learning aspect of this talk, and the realizations that I've had is I can accomplish a lot. I can actually get a lot done, but is it viable? Like, do I really need this? Do I need to create this? Do I need to actually fully ship this? Not necessarily for public use or any sort of monetary gain, but is this actually worth, putting more effort into? You know, um, and that has helped me kind of steer away from creating and developing and shipping. And I think during March to July, I was probably creating the most. And from July to now, I've been creating less, but I've been creating more functional and viable and more effective solutions or tools or whatever. Some of the accomplishments that I've done: 25 plus landing pages, fully functional, sold one. Probably over 2 months, 3 months, cold called a bunch of businesses, people with websites, people without websites, out of date websites, fresh websites, but they just could add more, spice. Um, and I sold hosting and maintenance at 600 a year. Um, I probably spent about $500 on Claude and probably about 200 in like etc. AI wrapper bullshit. So I'm what, plus 300, maybe plus 200 profit right now. Doesn't really feel like it because obviously 6 months uh, went by really fast, and it feels like I spent a lot more. Work. I'm pretty proud of work. So automated shipping label processing with invoice prep. It take anywhere from 1 to 3 hours a day to do all this stuff, and now it takes about 5 to 15 minutes a day. I made a unified LTL rate quote system for our shipping department. It would take 2 to 3 hours a day, and now it takes about 15 to 30 minutes a day. And the product mockup generator was more for a trade show for displaying and kind of allowing potential leads at the exhibit to, kind of see what their cafe logo would look like on their coffee cup. And that was kind of more of a fun project. It's not necessarily something that I use, but it can be used for our trade shows and also our sales, just to kind of, instead of the same old sales email, you can spin up, someone's cafe with their logo on it, and it, obviously looks good and looks nice and so on and so forth. I'm gonna hop into how the automated shipping works. So it's all in Python. It's in a GUI now for some of the other employees in the office because they're not really tech savvy. But what it does is it fetches a specific Gmail account through a specific inbox on the Outlook client, and then it filters the emails and it matches a order email and a credit card auth email, and it makes sure that they have the same invoice number, and then that kind of just matches a pair. It then parses and truncates all the data and puts into a invoice text file, and then it prints it, and it saves the invoice text file. this diagram was created in Figma, and I did not go over it clearly, so I will kind of the printed invoice text file goes into just a standard printer, okay, not the thermal label printer. Stepping back, the order receipt then is sent. All the shipment details are then sent to FedEx API, and the shipment is then created, labels created, and it's sent to the thermal printer, and it prints out. At the same time, the FedEx, their shipping history with or without API use is horrible. It's like I think 30 days, and it doesn't give you a good way to like filter out anything. It's very hard to like, I guess, essentially read it. It takes like 5 minutes for me to actually track a shipment. And so I created my own convex database that essentially just saves all of the you know shipment details to a nice little table, and we can see the day that it was shipped, how many packages were involved, what SKUs, the two shipment address, all the information that you need for shipment details, right? And this saves, and it stays on our system, and the database closes and starts on the close and start of the Python script. This convex database I just actually implemented last week, and it took me 7 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, which was like fucking sick because, obviously I'm not a software engineer, I'm vibe coder extraordinaire, and, from diddling around in the beginning of all this, I, would mess around with, oh shit, what's it called? Not Supabase, but Postgres, with Docker, and it was horrific to set up. And Convex was simple, so I don't know if it was just my, I understood how to like prompt and context engineer and all that type of stuff, or if it was more of Convex or both or whatever. But it was pretty cool seeing that happen pretty quickly and actually getting it to work and function, and so on and so forth. Surprisingly, I haven't had many issues with this FedEx system. I get random issues. There was a time when someone inputted their second address in the first address label field. And so I kind of had to figure out a way to kind of break apart the first address by setting, some sort of parameters. And then I also set up a way to reject specific states and addresses, since we don't ship to PO boxes and such. But all in all, a pretty amazing system from the start. It works. It takes, I think I said, what did I say, 5 to 50 minutes? Yeah, it probably takes 3 minutes, maybe 2 minutes. Depending on how many labels you have. Going on to the rate system, the rate system essentially just our shipping team would have to go onto each of these platforms, so GLI, TForce, and XPO, and input the same to address, set all the accessorials, service options, pickup delivery options, the weights, the class of what's being shipped, amount of packages, the amount of pallets, so on and so forth. It's a lot of data enter. It takes about 7 to 12 minutes per quote. So that's like 30-ish plus minutes per, essentially per client. And we would have a multitude of clients a day. So it very time consuming, very monotonous, and very repetitive, obviously. So figured out make a front end UI, same from, same to, all the fields that these 3 platforms utilize, and have it essentially aggregate all the data and send it to each API and have it fetch all the rates and compile it all back into a nice table view. And that's exactly what it does. So we're shipping from, uh, Washington, and we're sending it to Phoenix, and we're going to get rates from all three logistic providers and the shipment times, the costs, and it has all the breakdowns on the costs and the fuels and the surcharges and the taxes and all that sorts of things. And it just works. And that takes 30 seconds, I think, for it to run, maybe a little longer. It doesn't take too much longer than, um, you know, uh, generating something from Nano Banana or what. Um, and yeah, but the reason why I created this video, and I'm really good at tangenting, and I'm also not so good at being a content creator, so to speak. But I saw T3's video on vibe coding being dead, and I don't want to say it's dead. I want to say that it's not peaches and cream. It's not easy. It's not fast. It does take time. And these are systems that our team uses. You know what I mean? This isn't something that involves millions of users and servers and transactions and refunds and all these moving parts. These are, fairly simple projects. And I think anyone that is vibe coding, whether if it's Lovable or Claude or Codex or whatever, unless if you're like a 1% kind of person in regards to, not striking it lucky, but just right place, right time, right product, you're going to have a hard time creating something that is of use. And I think in the world of AI, people are even saying it basically the day of, but when ChatGPT released Agent Builder, um, NAN is dead, makes dead, any workflow, thing is dead. And with apps too, uh, with ChatGPT, like that's huge. You know what I mean? Like I was able to create this diagram with Figma in ChatGPT. Yeah, I got some of it wrong, but iterate, 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 you'll be fine. But it it's pretty crazy, like in regards to the things that people are wanting to create. We're not going. I don't really see that there's much time in regards to creating the I don't think the wrapper era is going to last much longer. You know what I mean? I think you're going to have to kind of innovate, and I think the era of innovating is going to be coming soon, to where you know um, you can't just create a photo editing app with new filters and charge $1. You know what I mean? I'm sure you can, but like to be a really successful company, or a successful business, something that actually means something to people and has, value and worth. It's going to take a lot more than just sitting in Cloud Code or sitting in Codex or having, 10 terminals open and, you're orchestrating all these agents, which I don't understand how people do that. I've tried doing that. Don't really like doing it. I feel like it fucks everything up, and it's just more what they call it, context bloating. And I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to you kind of need to be a software engineer, or at least understand, the fundamentals of everything and how things work and how things function and why they function the way they function, before you're really gonna even get somewhere. Um, this Python script took me months to perfect. It worked within probably about 3 weeks. There's still things about it that I still have to fix, and it's a work in progress. I don't think after I finish these next couple things, I think it's done, and I don't really think I can, you know, make it any better. Not that it's the best it can be, but I just don't, without changing the way that our, commerce system works, or, any of that, I don't think there's really much that I can do. And same with rate logistics and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, uh, I kind of rambled, I tangented, I kind of covered a few things that I felt that were important for people that are vibe coding or even just software engineering and that they're interested in the AI space. But this was just kind of my journey. I'm not saying that this is how everyone's journey is going to be, because everyone has different journeys in life. But in regards to just, I would assume and I would think that this is most of people's experiences, especially if you're a non-developer, creating software or whatever it might be. But anyways, thank you guys for watching.